class. Today we are learning about Earl Warren. Let me start off with one of his quotes, but as a background note, Warren practiced law as his occupation for many years. His quote was, "I never heard a jury bring in a verdict of guilty but what I felt sick in the pit of my stomach," which meant he hated when individuals were pronounced guilty. But, hold on a second. What was his occupation again? If you're looking at the handout I made, you're noticing that he was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. He practiced law almost his entire life. He was a prosecuting attorney. So it was his job to make sure the guilty got punished. So why did he do it if he hated prosecuting so much? Well, Warren was always devoted to law enforcement. He wanted everyone to have the same rights and freedoms that America is supposed to guarantee. But one way to do that was to enforce the laws and make sure some people didn't infringe on the rights of others. One reason for his determination to enforce the law was a personal experience he had with one who broke it. About halfway through Warren's career, his father was murdered in his own living room. This only gave Warren more determination and drive to fight crime, to prevent such crimes as these. Thus, Warren became one of the most famous attorneys in the United States. But let's jump back to the beginning of the story. Earl Warren was born March 19, 1891, to a Norwegian immigrant, his father, in Los Angeles, California. He grew up in Bakersfield, about 100 miles north of LA, where he worked on the railroad crew to earn money for college. At college, he studied law at the University of California at Berkeley, where he received a bachelor's degree and a degree in law. In 1914, he was admitted to the California bar. For those who don't know, the bar collectively means all lawyers qualified to practice in a given court or jurisdiction. So anyone wanting to become a lawyer would have to take the bar exam to be admitted to the bar before he could practice law. Warren managed his own small practice for a few years, and then enlisted in the Army to serve for a brief time until 1919, when he became the clerk of the Judiciary Committee. He didn't remain clerk for long, however. He was quickly promoted to Deputy City Attorney, then Deputy District Attorney, and finally Chief Deputy in 1923. 2 years later, Warren became the District Attorney for Alameda County. For 14 years, Warren worked as District Attorney until he began campaigning for Attorney General in California in 1939. It was during this time that his father was killed. He was elected as Attorney General very easily, sending him on his way towards higher and more sought-after aspirations. Earl Warren was elected the Governor of California in 1942 by an overwhelming majority. During his service as governor, which lasted 11 years since he was re-elected twice, Warren ran as a dark horse candidate for United States President, meaning he was kind of in the background and not well known, but he wasn't nominated. Later he ran as vice presidential candidate with Thomas E. Dewey for the Republican Party, but that was also unsuccessful. Finally, in 1952, he tried for the Republican convention, and although Dwight Eisenhower won over Warren, the overall consequences were in Warren's favor. Because Warren assisted Eisenhower in becoming president, as a result, Eisenhower promised to help Warren in return. This experience led to Warren's eventual nomination and assignment as the 14th Chief Justice of the Supreme Court in 1953. After John F. Kennedy's assassination in 1963, Warren was selected to lead a team assigned to investigate the murder. Warren officially retired on June 23, 1969. Following 3 heart attacks, Earl Warren passed away July 9, 1974. The decisions and philosophies of the Warren Court, while Earl Warren was the Chief Justice, were monumental in changing American government and education. The most notable of the cases handled during his service as Chief Justice is Brown v. Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas in 1954. This decision overruled that of Plessy v. Ferguson, which was made nearly 60 years previously in the late 1800s, and Plessy v. Ferguson was a case that stated that segregation was acceptable if it was separate but equal. In Brown v. Board of Education, the court ruled that such segregation was inherently unequal and that it violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Therefore, segregation was pronounced unconstitutional. The implications of this court decision span the next half a century and still affect education and schooling today. Because segregation became illegal, schools had to change to accommodate. Of course, Brown v. Board of Education was not the perfect cure-all solution, nor did it change schools' practices immediately, but over time, education grew to include all races equally. Still today, there are segregation and racial problems across the nation, but Brown v. Board of Education was a giant step towards complete desegregation of public schools. Earl Warren is to be thanked for this contribution to American education.